And then I am going to hit.
We're recording.
Not yet. We will be.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I guess. Okay. That was for live stream. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the book club. I'm just trying to hit record here, so bear with me a second. There we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Awesome.
Yay.
All right. Yay. Okay, super pumped to be here with you guys today. I've got lots and lots to share.
Good.
Hopefully we'll get through all three, chapters 4, 5, and 6. Chapter 4 is, oops, hang on one second, is flipping huge. Okay, I got to get back to my screen. Hang on. There we go. Dustin. There we go. Hi, Dustin. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to continue here.
Hi, Dustin.
Hi, Dustin. Welcome, hon. Okay. All right. Here we go. I believe. I'm nervous today. I don't know why, but I'm a little bit nervous. Okay. Chapter 4 is huge, huge. And I wanted to get a few more resources under my belt when it comes to this chapter, because they say there are three chapters in this book that are so important, and chapter 4 is one of them, and that is the first principle. I want to do something just a little bit different for chapter 4, because I did get a few outside resources other than the book, but they are very reputable. They are from Bob Proctor, Robert Hollis, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill. Okay. So seeing how I got outside resources, I did not want to sway your thoughts on chapter 4. And so I am going to ask each of you first, what was your take on chapter 4? And if you have not read it, don't feel bad. That's okay. Okay. I just don't want to form your opinion. So that is why I'm asking just this chapter first. Okay. So if anybody wants to step up and go first, I would like to limit it to like maybe 3 minutes, if that's okay. If you go a little longer, that's fine too.
Lisa,
Okay.
I have the old
Yes.
version. I have the old version. What's
Okay.
the name of chapter 4? What's the
first principle.
okay.
Mhm. Okay. And does everybody know how to raise their hand if they choose to? Nice one, Melody. Goofball. Okay, spotlight for everybody. Let's do that. Let's spotlight everybody. Okay, Nicholas, how about you? Do you have anything to say about what your take was on chapter 4?
I always have something to say, and I will not
I knew
up.
you would.
The problem is I
Yes.
didn't prepare for this, but I read this book many times, and
And
I actually
that's
got
okay.
my old notes from the last time we did the book club. And what I
Perfect.
wrote down was all the forms that a person fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought about that thing. So it all starts in here. And this is connected to, we are working, when we're learning from a mentor that is successful, we are working a lot on our mindset, meditations, affirmations, all of that, all of those tools, because our thoughts, determines the way we feel, the way we act, the way we speak to ourselves, our self-talk, which determines the results that we get in life. So that's the first thing I wrote down. Then I actually wrote down the scientific use of thought consists in forming a clear and distinct mental image of what you want. in holding fast to your purpose to get what you want, and in realizing with grateful faith that you do get what you want. So I love this chapter.
Mhm.
So
I do
this is what I
too.
got.
And good. Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate that. I got this was just popping all over the place for me going through this chapter as deep as I did. I've not gone that deep before into this. So, and I've been working really hard all week on this. And so that is exactly why I did not want to say my thoughts first and form an opinion. So, okay, thanks, Nicholas. I appreciate that. And Melody, go ahead, hon.
Okay. This was one of my favorite. I've read this book many times. It's all marked up and everything. So, but what I like, it's on mine, it's down towards the first. It says, the thought of a house of a certain construction, if it were impressed upon formless substance, might not cause the instant formation of the house, but it would cause the turning of creative energies already working in the trade and commerce into such channels as to result in the speedy building of the house. So true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I think that, if we're not believing, first of all, we got to have it. We have to believe what we want. And if we don't have that thought first, we can't, it's like you can't even go any further in those steps. We have to think it first. But there's also a couple of interesting points which I'll share later. But go ahead, Melody, continue. That's great.
And it's also, there's another, it says, man is a thinking center and can originate thought. So true. You are you who and are what you are is what you think about.
Has anybody listened to Earl Nightingale
Oh yeah.
before? Okay. The
I
Strangest
said, no,
Secret.
I used to, this was probably about 15 years ago. I used to belong to Earl Nightingale, and they're more or less, because they have a website and they have so much material that you can order. And I used to
Do
order
they?
so much from them, they sent me a gift certificate for $50.
Oh, wow.
And this was
That's
years
nice.
ago. Oh yeah, this was years and years ago. So I was
Uh-huh.
sitting there, I'm like, wow, you sit here and think, I'm studying this and Napoleon Hill and whatever. I
Mhm.
got a lot of books here. Then I'm like,
I'll tell you what, I'm also studying Think and Grow Rich as well, because Robert started a book club with that.
right,
And for some reason, after the second meeting, they have not met again. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know that I would tackle Think and Grow Rich myself to do. It's this book is much, much easier, much, much shorter. But in some aspects, the wording, it's hard to understand. And chapter 4 was very, very difficult to understand, especially if you just go through and read it once. In fact, I actually thought about having us read that chapter again.
you can
But
read it again and again and
you
again.
can.
I mean, that's
Absolutely. And until what it is if we are not ready to, if we're not growing and getting to that point where we are opening our mind up enough to understand it, we're not going to. As Melody and I were talking a little bit prior to it, it's like you have to grow in order to be that next level of you.
if you think about it, this book is all metaphors.
Mhm.
It's comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Total.
Yeah, and if you get the analogy that whoever
Yep.
is referring to, then you're gonna get it. To keep a constant reminder of that, we have to be practicing what we learn. Okay. Thanks, Melody. Do you have more?
I've highlighted this and let somebody else go. I could sit here and read this all
Okay.
day. But if
Anybody
you go,
else?
okay, this is where the three, more or less like the three laws, I think it is, where they want the repetition. There's a
And
thing
see,
that you
there's
don't-
other laws that were not listed. There's levels of awareness
Right,
that are not in this book. And so that's why I went and got some extra resources. So I think being aware of those awareness levels is
Yeah.
crucial to
you
changing.
have to.
That is, yeah. So I'm going to get into that a little bit. And if I were you guys, I absolutely would take notes. Unless you know all this, then by gosh, you can help me. You're great. You know what I mean? I'm not a master at this yet by any means, but I aim
Yeah,
to
but
get there.
Bob Proctor wasn't either, and he studied it for 60 years.
He did. That's right.
I
And
mean,
he
he
still
knew
did.
it, but nobody can master this. I mean, it's just.
See, I don't agree. I believe that he did. I believe
Well, I
that.
mean, I'm not demeaning the man, but he learned
Mhm.
every day too.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
And yes, he was very knowledgeable. He was very astute in this material, but
Mhm.
he was constantly learning too. So,
Absolutely, for sure.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Melody. Debbie, do you want anything, or Gina, or Sue? Anything from you guys? Dustin? Okay. All right. Then I'm going to get
Come
into
on,
my
guys.
spiel.
Say something. Say something.
Believe me, I've got plenty to say, so
All right.
I do.
Okay,
Okay,
I
and
do want to say something. This book
okay, go ahead.
reminds me of what's the word I'm looking for? When you're constantly thinking of something, some help me. When you're constantly thinking of someone, premonition. No,
Like, there are words in this chapter. There is a what do you call it? Uh, a chorus. It's not a chorus, but it's something. It's something that they repeatedly say.
Yes.
If you say something repeatedly, is that where you were going, Deb?
Like a chant.
well, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There is a, gosh, I can't remember that word. It starts with an S. It's kind of like a chorus. Anyway, so I can't remember. Anyway, it'll come to me. Something that they say over and over and over again, and they say if you fixate these words into your memory,
Yeah,
like you were
I'll
singing
probably
the
come to
happy.
me. It'll come to me when I'm sleeping tonight. So if you get
It's
text
like,
me from me at like 2 a.m, you'll know.
oh, okay. Yeah, I probably will have my phone off, but you can do that. Anyway, it's like if you fix that phrase in your mind like it's a happy birthday song,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so that you
But
can,
I don't
you know,
remember
at
the word either. So
drop of a hat, you're singing the praises or whatever. But okay, thanks, Deb. Anything else? Okay. All right, I'm going to continue on because I probably got like 10, 15 minutes of talking, if not a little bit more. So, chapter 4 is the first principle. So, what they're telling us is thought is the only power which can produce riches from the formless substance, the stuff from which all things are made. This is the part that is hard to, I don't know if you guys feel that it's hard to get this part into my head, but
Right.
the stuff from which all things are made is a substance that thinks. Okay. And a thought in that substance produces that form. I'm trying to say this slow because I'm trying to picture it as I say it. And the substance moves according to its thoughts. So every form and process that we see in nature is the visible expression. Keep that word in mind, visible expression of a thought in the original substance. As the formless, that the formless stuff thinks of a form, it takes that form. As it thinks of a motion, then it makes that motion. So that is the way all things were created. We live in a thought world, which is part of a thought universe. Okay, the thought of a moving universe, according to that thought, took the form of systems and planets, and it maintains that form. I think that is just so cool. Nicholas, you got a question?
Yeah, I just want to say maybe I'm too simple-minded, but when I read this book, except for when it talks about the formless substance and the different variations of that was the only thing that I didn't understand. And when I talked to Robert Hollis, he said, think of it as a higher power.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
when everything that you talked about now, in my mind, it translates into, just like I said before when I talked, if we have a positive emotion, if we think positively, it all starts with thoughts. If we think positively, we have positive emotions, and that creates, it's wrong to say positive action, but it creates action different from if we were to have negative thoughts. And that being what's the word I'm looking for, being emotionally attached to what we're thinking about because we're thinking positive, and then we're taking action on it because we're excited about it, we're emotionally attached to it. So that's how I translate that. I don't know if it's simple as that.
No, I think that's absolutely amazing. In fact, I have very much of that in my explanation. And when you said the higher power, now thought, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just step back a minute and go back to where I was at. Okay, I did say it maintains that form once it is created, depending on the emotion that's pushing it. Does that make better sense, Nicholas?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because if I'm positive-minded, I work on my mindset every day, and I'm positive-minded, and I'm going after something that I'm very passionate about, I'm going to be driven to take action. So
Absolutely.
I have a thought that I want, and that translates into feeling, self-talk, and action, which determines result. So the result that we get. So yeah, absolutely makes sense.
Do you know what happens to me when I'm about ready for maybe a little breakthrough, or I'm ready to maybe grow another level? I get this feeling in my gut that's unexplainable. Do you know what I mean? I know that that's my emotions kicking in, and I'm ready for something to happen that spurts my growth a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? But in the sense of a higher power, I think when they reference to the formless substance, the intelligent substance, all of this, I believe that they are referring to our creator. You know what I mean?
Can I just add something to
Yeah,
that? Because
absolutely.
I actually asked this on one of Robert's calls, and everyone else here might have the same belief, but I have a different belief. So I asked Robert, how am I supposed to think when I read this in the book, and I don't believe in an outside source or a higher power? And he told me, this comes straight from Robert Hollis, he told me, translate it in your mind to your inner power instead. So if someone watches this that have the same belief as I do, that could help you. So I just want to add that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a good point that I probably would not have made. And maybe because I do think the other way. That's why I wanted you guys to be able to talk first so that I'm not swaying what you think. You know what I mean? It would be wonderful if we all could think the same way and all be all that and holier than now, but we're just not. You know, that's we're just not. So anyway, I thank you, Nicholas. That was an excellent point. Okay, so I'm going to continue. According to Bob Proctor, and please don't let me forget to leave without leaving those resource links for you guys. According to Bob Proctor, he says you have to think when most people will do anything but think. People believe that they think, but they don't. They don't. And I so see this in myself. They are just talking things that they have heard. They don't know if what they have heard is actually true or not. They have no idea unless they have used their higher powers to learn more about that. And these higher powers, these tools that we have, they all revolve around awareness, which I'm going to get into. And I just thought this was such a cool part of Bob Proctor's training that I felt it was, it needed to be shared here within this book club. In fact, I'm very, very surprised that it is not in the book, in this book. But it is the short version. So the short version of it. So, oh, sorry, excuse me. Okay, there we go. Welcome, Rosalind. Nice to see you. Okay, so anyway, what does Robert always say? If you know what you know and you've always known it to be so, and then you learn it isn't true, when would you like to know? This is so true, because everything we hear gets put into our subconscious. We have no choice early on what goes in our subconscious. So everything that we hear from our parents, from the people that are around us, the people that take care of us, our teachers, all of these things reflect on who we are or who we believe we are as well. Because if you continually call a child that they're stupid or they're never going to amount to anything, what do you think that child is going to believe? You know what I mean? Nicholas, yes. And you know what? I used to be a special ed teacher for 12 years, and I know how these kids think. And oh my goodness, if I would have known then what I know now. You know what I mean? I could have been so much more helpful to a lot of those kids that don't get that possibly at home. Okay, I kind of went off track there. Let me get back on it. Sorry. I do that a lot. Okay, so having faith is speaking and thinking what you want to believe, regardless of what it appears. However it appears, we can't trust facts. We can't base facts on appearances. Okay. And I guess that gets into being more like responding instead of reacting. You know what I mean? And then and just not believing everything that you hear. If we react, well, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Anyway, people have unbelievable faith. A lot of people do. Some don't, but a lot do. So if you are living in poverty, if you focus on poverty, if you're fighting struggling, going paycheck to paycheck, that is what you are going to attract. It is going to come to pass. So if you are focused on paying that the rent or the electric bill, I mean, that is what the problem is going to be. What we focus on, we bring about. Okay. So what they're telling us basically is we have choices. We have choices how we can perceive things. And more people want to be right. They'd rather be right about something than change their perspective or open their mind to a different idea. Because if you are doing the same thing over and over and over again and it is not working, then that's not anybody else that's got to change. You got to change that within you, within your plan, within your treasure map. However, it's all the process of where you are trying to get to be. You know what I mean? So, and honestly, if you don't believe that, then you need to go to that Earl Nightingale, The Stranger's Secret, and listen to that. Not once, not twice. Listen to it over and over. That one is only like 30 minutes long. You could easily do that in the morning while you're getting ready for work or get ready, whatever, going for exercise, whatever. 30 minutes. And I'll tell you what, I sometimes resource to that one because the God Memorandum seems like it's longer. I know it's only 5 minutes longer, but some days it seems like, and I have committed to my 100 days. Nicholas, I know you said you're going to start that again too. And what day are you on?
I think I am on day 7 because I also, at first I didn't think I was going to start over, but then Robert Holly said Melody started over, so yeah.
He did.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I think she's on like 1800 or she's way up there. It's been many years. I keep lacking and missing a day. So I'm on day 5.
That the God
I am going to do
memorandum?
it.
You guys
Yes.
talking about
Yes.
the God memorandum? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Oops, I'm sorry. I accidentally muted you. You can, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
No, that's what I was. It's a God memorandum. Yeah.
Yeah. And Robert says, if, and I bring people to him, Nicholas does, he's our mentor. We want to edify him. And, he's not going to take that person away from you, but he does tell you, if you go to him, he will ask you, what day are you on? He will.
Yep.
And he does. If we want his help, that's why I have not reached out to Robert myself, because I have not read that for 100 days. I keep missing a day. I have to keep starting over. So I'm not going to do it.
Mandino was excellent. I mean, I got like 3 of his books in my office. This one's excellent too.
Oh, the greatest miracle in the world was I cried when Simon was gone.
This one's really good too. The reason this one is good is because it gives you fundamental, it gives
Okay.
you confidence, and it's more or less, this book focuses you real fast.
What is
And,
it?
and it's O.G. Mandino too, the greatest salesman in the world, part 2 of
Mandino, yeah.
Part 2, really?
Yeah, part 2.
He's got actually a whole series.
Yeah,
of
because
little
in the
short
back of
books
this
like that.
book, what this book does, I'll be real quick. In the back of the book, after you read the story, there's vows. I think there's 12 of them, and they're called the vows of success.
Okay.
Very good. And
Mhm.
OG Mandino's been around forever.
Yeah, he has. He has. I'm telling you, I fell in love with The Greatest Miracle. And I literally did cry when I learned No More Simon. I don't know. He stuck to my heart. He did. I really enjoyed that book.
You say you're
I've
so
read it
funny.
again. Hmm? What, Deb?
You're so funny.
Okay, so let's move on here. So, in order to get what we want, we must think about what we want. And when we are visualizing, we want to feel the emotions, like Nicholas said, that go along with it. Feel the experience as if you were already, it was already in your life. Okay. And we're going to get into more of that too. I think it was last week. Well, let me move on. I'll get to that part. When we are sick, we think about sickness. Okay. When we worry, we bring about more worry. When we stress out, we bring about more stress. And this brings on disease, any form of disease. And I'm telling you, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it must be awfully, awfully high for being ill, because of how you're being ill doesn't just mean feeling sick. It's like your whole demeanor. If you're not happy, if you're not doing what you want to do, I don't know that, that is so difficult. You got to have your mind in the right place in order to do well and and expect more and want more. You know what I mean? Bob Proctor does say that it is so important for us to be more so a listener than a talker. And this is so true, because, and I know this for a fact, the more we listen, the more we're going to learn. If we're up there yapping like I am right now, what am I going to learn if I'm just doing all the talking?
God gave
You know
you
what I
2
mean?
ears and 1 mouth.
That's right. That's right. We need to use them.
That's
So I'm giving myself forgiveness just for today. Okay. So just becoming more aware. The thought that built everything has already been here. It's already here. The thought of how to fly an airplane was already here. All the ideas, the processes, the building of it, all of it was already here and has been. We just need to become aware of what is out there. So, when they talk about the main principle of this being thought, which it is, everything has to start with thought. But I honestly believe that this is a chapter also about being so aware of the things that we have not been aware of. And the possibilities that are out there are freaking mind blowing. If you believe this, you know what I mean? And, I was talking to my husband a little bit about this, because, he sees me studying all week for that. You know what I mean? So he's kind of gotten in on a few conversations, and it's just, we are so unaware. We really are. We want what we want. We don't consider, or if we do listen to others, it's those outside forces that bring us down, that change our thoughts. You don't let them do that. This is all about you and your journey. You know what I mean? This is all about you, and we got to do what we need to do to make that work, I believe. So when it comes to poverty, thinking about it is only going to bring it to pass. So why not think and believe in abundance? We have to be aware that everything forms in your mind first, and then it materializes in the outside world. So according to Bob, and like I said, I will leave those links. There are 7 levels in the process of becoming more aware. Okay, here they are. Number 1 is animalistic consciousness. Okay. Let me hang on. Wait, you looking for a pen there, Melody, or I thought you were waiting. Okay. Number 2 is mass consciousness. Third one is aspiration, individual, discipline, experience, and mastery. Okay, so animalistic consciousness is the very first level that we reach in being aware. So how do we get from there to mastery? And mastery is where we all want to be. Okay. When we are in our animalistic consciousness, what do animals do in most situations? They react. Okay. What do most adults do? Most people do. They
Yeah.
react also. Right, exactly. So when we react, we are either in fight or flight mode, right? Okay. So to get to that mastery stage, the people that get to that stage from this point, those are the people that have mastered to respond to situations. They do not react. That is huge because in order to respond, we must first think. We must think first. So, and that, all of these people that I've been talking about that surround this book have said, I just lost my train of thought. Gosh darn it. Thinking, when we have to think, like we all think that we do think, but we really don't. We are just repeating things that we have heard. Hold on a sec. Okay. We are just repeating things that we have heard. Okay. It's not necessarily true. How do we know that? How do we know that unless we try to find out that answer ourselves? We have all these tools that we can use. You know what I mean? And I think being aware of those is going to help so much in getting this bigger picture, maybe. Okay. Let me see, where was I here? Okay, so the next level of awareness after the animal consciousness is the mass consciousness. Melody, go ahead, hon.
What I do, if I'm gonna more or less lose my peace within myself by responding to somebody, I walk away.
Hold on, Melody. One second. I'm going to mute everybody, and then I'm going to ask you to unmute. There we go.
I said,
Okay.
what I do is if I have to come up against a conflict, I'm in sales. I've been in sales for 30 years. So I deal with the public all day long, either online or face to face. If I come up against somebody that has a conflict, yes, I'm going to try to diffuse it right away. And what I think of in my head is, if this person is going to disturb my peace, I gotta go. I do not cause conflict whatsoever. So, I mean,
Right.
that might help. I mean, that's the rule that I go by. If you're gonna disturb my peace by something that you're not, or you're making assumptions of something without asking me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone. Have
Right.
a nice day. Have a
Right.
nice day.
We have control
Oh, yeah.
of what happens around us. So yeah, we absolutely have control. So let's use those powers
Oh, yeah.
that we
I mean,
have.
I've been in, out in the public and online for many, many years. If I were to let some of these crazies bother me, whoo, I'd be a nutcase, okay? There's some crazies I deal with on a daily basis sometimes. And those are online, so I can just go, oops, I'm sorry, I lost you. Ta-da!
And-
I hang away.
Right. And you know what? That brings up another great
Yeah,
point,
I just, hey, you gotta go, okay? I don't have to listen.
right. Absolutely. And that brings up another thing about being grateful, and we will get into that very soon. And yeah. Okay. So the next level of consciousness is the the mass consciousness. The next level of awareness, I'm so sorry, is mass consciousness. Okay. That is when we just follow the crowd. Okay. We don't want to think. We don't care to think. I don't want nothing to do with it. It's too freaking hard. I'm just going to follow the crowd. Right. So it's like all the buildings downtown, a big city at 12 o'clock noon, you could get run over by the masses. Everyone's going to lunch, right? Are they going to lunch because they're hungry? No, they're going to lunch because they think it's time for lunch. The masses live by the clock, not by their thoughts. That is so huge when we realize that. Yeah, I just had so many pops going through these other resources and maybe people need Bob Proctor too to really boost that off, or Robert Hollis, whoever it is, or Napoleon Hill. I mean, Earl Nightingale too, for that matter. There is a whole procession of people that believe that the principles in this book, once learned, once followed, once lived by them, you absolutely will become rich. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all money, because you need perfect balance in your life. It's not just the financial side that gives you true wealth, true richness, true, happiness and joy. We have to have a balance of all those factors, not just the money. Okay. So the masses are controlled by habits, and they're controlled by other people. And Earl Nightingale, he does explain this one very, very well. You guys will have to go and if you've never listened to it, listen to it at least a few times. Okay, so when we follow the masses, we're just getting herded like animals. Everybody go here, everybody go get vaccinated here, or okay, I shouldn't even get into that, but you know where I'm coming from. Okay, people should be allowed to have their own choice in anything. So how do we break that cycle of going with the masses? Bob Proctor said in that link that I will share, he said that what he did was he read books. He read books constantly. That will trigger ideas of a better way of life. Okay. And what happened as he aspired to something better? What happened? Oh my gosh. He wanted to do more. He wanted to be more. He wanted more. This is the next level of awareness, and that is the aspiration. So when we hit that level of awareness, it's like breaking away from it's breaking away from the masses. It's like, this is where you really, really have to push yourself, really push through, because that mass consciousness that we have back there is going to be pulling you back down. It wants you back there because that's where you were comfortable. It doesn't want you to grow. You know what I mean? That's uncomfortable. Keeps trying to pull us back. Back to following others and being herded like the animal. So to break that pull, it takes, or that resistance, how do we break that? That is coupled along with level 5, which is discipline. Just stating that you are going to do something and you follow through with doing it. You know, you proclaim, oh, did I miss individual? Because you proclaim your uniqueness. Individual is in there too. You have to claim your uniqueness, then give yourself a command, and you got to follow through with it. That is where the discipline comes in. The uniqueness into the individual, into, oh my goodness, the masses into the individual, which is uniqueness. That's where people struggle because they're not ready to just say, this is who I am. This is me. Claim it, stand up to it, follow it, agree with it, whatever. Does that make sense? Or am I making that a jungled mess?
Been programmed.
Melly, go ahead. Oh, there we go.
They've been programmed.
Absolutely.
Been
Absolutely.
programming. Most people that work 9 to 5, they're programmed.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been 1099 most of my life. You know, yeah, I work some hours sometimes, but I'd rather have it that way than have to. I mean, for example, this lady wanted to interview me. I said, all right, I'll go interview. Went this week and I sat there and interviewed with her, and I'm like, she goes, well, what do you think? I says, you and I, not working. She goes, why? I said, because that vibe's coming across from you. I'm strong. You're strong. We would be like this on a constant basis.
Right.
And I've just never let anybody, you know, when you've been 1099 for so many years, no, I don't have time for this. Okay. I'll go do my own thing. And but I mean, I was 9 to 5 for quite a few years, but I'm like, no, it's masses and it's programming.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
like this whole country's programmed with the politics. Okay, we're
Yeah.
all programmed. Okay, we all have this mindset, and I won't go on a tangent here, but a lot of the people, because I work with a lot of low income Social Security disability. You can, you know, it's sad. Yes, a lot of people do need it, and I understand that. But there's things that you can do if you're not totally disabled to pull yourself out of that.
No, I agree. Very good.
But they're set
Yeah.
there in that mindset that, no, I'm going to do this. So I'm, okay.
And you know, if you know that you are not going to be in harmony, yeah, you don't even want to go down that road because
you can feel the energy, you can feel the vibration. I can feel vibration and energy as soon as I walk into a room. I know, no, this isn't going to work.
I'm beginning to experience that way more because I am now aware that I put off a vibe.
I mean, if you have any kind of intuitive, if you're intuitive, have your intuitions working for you, especially a woman. Okay, sorry, Nicholas, didn't mean to leave you out of it, bud. But
that is true.
Woman's intuition is very, very strong, and if it's in the gut and I'm not feeling it in the heart, I gotta go.
That's right. Trust your heart. Trust your heart. Now, some people do say that when you feel that intuition, it's like God talking to you.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Trust that. That is your guide. Trust that. Nicholas, did you change your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to ask something, but then I remembered that Melody answered that. You know, on my last call, I believe it was, I asked you, we talked about the same thing that you were talking about now, you and Melody, about that we are programmed. And my question was, if we are always programmed by outside sources such as, YouTube, everything on the computer, television, radio, other people in, close to us, is it possible to even have an own opinion? Because
You know what?
whatever we think, whatever we believe in comes from other people or outside other sources. But I
It
remember
does.
I can't remember exactly what she said, but she explained that we can make own decisions or have own thoughts. Yeah.
My husband and I were just talking about this, just, I don't know, last night or this morning, this specifically too, because he said, well, you are telling people something on your live, your book club here, whatever. And yes, I am, taking the information from a book that is written, that has been proven to be what it says to be. How do we know that we aren't taking that book or Bob Proctor or Earl Nightingale or anybody else? How do we know we are not taking their thoughts? And how do we still know that this is true?
You don't.
I can oh, sorry, did I talk over
No, go
someone
ahead.
else?
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Well,
Nobody had their hand up.
The
So.
way we know that is that when we hear some information, wherever it is from, then we can decide if we want to believe that or not, and if
That's
we
right.
want
We
to
have a choice.
study that, I guess.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we were talking about. You have a choice. You have a choice on how your perception, how do you perceive this? And if things within you and surrounding you are not going well, then something has to change. And it's either got to be your perspective, it's got to be something within you, because we're not supposed to take any outside forces. We can't let those distract us. Our Creator created us, and we are the only thing that He created that was given the possibility of choosing. Even His angels don't choose. We have that. So we have to be responsible for our thoughts. If this is what I don't get, if we have a choice of changing our mind, changing our perspective to suit what we want to be surrounded by, why don't we do that opposed to choosing the resistance, choosing the fighting, choosing the, that right fighter attitude? Do you know what I mean? Which I do a lot. And that makes me, I don't know what that makes me, a right fighter. I guess I'm a right fighter. But if I know something in my heart to be true, I will stand up for that. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe you guys got an idea on that. Go ahead, Melody.
To me, that's the programming again. Okay. I mean, we've all been so programmed for so many years. It doesn't happen overnight to be able to have awareness and make your own decisions. Does
No,
not
it
happen. I
doesn't.
mean, it might never happen. Okay.
Well, look at me. I am just now becoming aware, and I've got a long ways to go.
I am.
I'm 61 years old. Good grief. When's it going to happen here? You know what I mean?
You know what? You look at it this way. You found it though.
I think that I do, but however,
Found it.
I think once you get that concept, once you become aware, we got to practice that every single day. We have to. And last week I had mentioned to you guys to write down your 3 things that you are grateful for. This is where gratitude plays a huge, huge part. And I did not ask you to, and I would like you to do this tonight or whatever, before we meet again. Now I want you to put down 3 things that you are grateful for now, that just like it already exists, something that you are hoping for and it already exists, and you feel that with every emotion that you have, like it already is. You can think these things into fruition. You can. I have seen it happen. I've experienced it myself. And it is such a cool feeling. And it doesn't have to be huge, but I suggest you go huge, go to the moon. You know what I mean? If you fall a little short, you might hit the stars. You know what I mean? But if it scares you, then start out smaller. You know, I am so grateful now that something big could be, I am so grateful now that I live in the home of my dreams. You know, I've always envisioned this, and feel that with your emotions, just like you can visually see it, you're walking through it. You can close your eyes and you can see every piece of furniture. Do you know what I'm saying? Then you've got a vision, and just freaking go off of that. But now there is one very important thing that I need to wrap up in this chapter. I knew this was going to be a long one, and I apologize. But the other 2 will go quickly. We have to, according to Wallace, first let me, God, that word is driving me nuts. Not the chorus, shoot. I'm going to lay awake tonight and I will think of it. I know. But I'm going to see if I can say this myself without looking. Okay. And this, Debbie, is the part that you want to get fixated on your brain. You know what I mean? There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, in which its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So, according to Wallace Wattles, we must lay aside all other concepts of the universe other than this one specifically, because we must dwell upon it until it is fixed in our mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these statements over and over again. Fix every word in your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt comes to you, cast it aside as a sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea. Do not go to churches. Don't listen to lectures where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up with your faith, all your efforts are going to be in vain. Don't ask why these things are true or speculate how they can be true. We need to trust them. We have to put our trust into them because we do have that choice. So the science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of faith. Okay. That is chapter 4. And anybody have anything else to add to that? Anything I possibly missed? A point that you got and I didn't, or whatever? No? Okay. I'm going to go right into chapter 5. And chapter 5 is talking about increasing life. According to Wallace Wattles, we must get rid of that idea that it's noble to be in poverty. The intelligent substance, that higher power, which is in all, it lives in all, it lives in me, it lives in you. It is a conscious living substance. It also has the necessity for continuous increase. So, because every thought that we think brings about another thought. It makes it necessary for us to come up with another thought. Our conscious is continually expanding. Every fact we learn leads to us learning another fact, and our knowledge is forever increasing. According to Napoleon Hill, he says an educated person is that one that has developed these higher faculties. This was what you were talking about too, Nicholas. These higher faculties are just higher tools that we can use, that we have available to us. There are 6 of these, okay? The first one is perception. Next one is reason. Again, this is not in the book. This was in Bob Proctor's thing that I'm going to share with you. I just found so much more information in there that was not in the book that I really think should be in the book to have a better understanding of it. So let me do that again. Perception, reason, will, like your will power, memory, imagination, and intuition, which Miss Melody kind of hit on there. So perception, number 1, is just your point of view. And sometimes we have such a strong point of view that we sometimes become closed-minded. We are not open to other ideas, other perceptions. We are just, that's it. Most people like that, we cannot help. We cannot help because they already know everything, and they're not willing to open their mind to grow more. You know what I mean? And Melody and Robert explained this like that open parachute. That parachute doesn't work, and it's just like your mind. That parachute will not work if it's not open. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So number 2 is reasoning. And that is having the ability to take individual thoughts and bring them together to form ideas. Now, in Think and Grow Rich, they refer to this as, creating your mastermind group. Okay. And perfect harmony has to be in that group, which Melody hit on. So you guys are hitting all these points that need to be hit. So I'm impressed by that. So that's that's awesome. So you got to be able to work along well with others and surround yourself around those like-minded people that are going to think, at that same level you are. Not saying that we're better because we have an open mind or anything like that, but you do have to have an open mind in order to learn things. We don't know everything. I know I don't. So, all right, the next one is will, and will means to be able to concentrate, to focus, put all your energy where it needs to be. And it doesn't mean using that willpower to get other people to do what you want them to do. That's an outside force. We got to concentrate on what's right here, what's within us. Okay. Next one is memory. Now, people complain all the time, I know I do, that our memory is horrible, but it's not that. Okay. You maybe just are not exercising it enough. You aren't practicing or challenging it by expanding your mind, by learning more, by reading every day. That is how we expand that, okay? By learning. And number 5 is imagination. So think about when you see a little kid and their imagination is so vivid, the stories they tell, and they are constantly using their imagination. And of course, we think it's cute and we encourage them, right? However, by the time they get to school, what we have been encouraging, what we have been thinking was so cute is now a distraction. They're not only distracting the classroom, they're distracting the teacher, and the child ends up getting in trouble because the teacher thinks, Johnny's not listening, he's not paying attention, he can't sit still. When in reality, this is probably exactly what is going on. And we as caregivers, parents, teachers, whatever, it's like we put a lid on our kids' imagination. And if you think of it that way, that's really kind of sad, I think. So I don't know. I think of all these things like, geez, that's how they label that kid's got ADD or ADHD, and all of a sudden he's on all these medicines, when in reality, it could have been just him daydreaming, for cry Okay. I'll get on a tangent if I don't continue there. So, and the last one is the intuition. And I do believe when we experience that, it is actually God or one of our angels, one of our guides is speaking to us, and take that emotion that you feel like you are, this is what I need to do or whatever, and listen to your gut, listen to your heart. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you what, your gut don't lie, neither does your heart. So, okay. The point is, everything in life continually needs to grow and expand to be more. So if you drop a seed into the ground, the activity starts immediately. It will produce 100 more seeds. It's forever. Oh, Dustin, I hope your hand was not up terribly long. I'm so sorry.
No, I just put it up just a second as you noticed it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat. It's to Magic in Your Mind by Bob Proctor.
Okay.
It's a whole course.
Awesome.
So I
Yeah.
left the link
I was
there.
going to share. Yeah, I don't think that's the same one that I'm sharing, but I'm sure they are all very,
Yes,
very good and similar. So thank you, Dustin. I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
Have you heard the one, Earl Nightingale?
Yes.
Okay.
The
Yeah, that's a
Strangest
good one
Secret.
too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes.
Absolutely. The first time I got into network marketing online was 5.5 years ago. And I never heard of anything about personal development, about mindset, no awareness of this at all. And I find that really, really sad, especially at my age. You know what I mean? Why aren't we made aware of these things? None of these things are taught in school. None of them. I find that crazy. However, I'm not going to say, an education is not needed. You still need that education to be able to use the resources that are available to us just by knowing, oh my gosh, do you know what I can ask Google? I can ask him anything. I get the answer. Whether it's good or bad, I get that answer. And then again, how do you know those are just opinions? We don't. We don't. I have already come up many, many things just doing these 3 chapters that have brought questions to my forefront that, well, how can they say this and this is true? You know what I mean? Some things don't make sense, but when we start learning, more questions automatically come up. They automatically do. And that's what widens our horizon, our whatever. Okay, you guys get the big picture. Okay, I'm not going to keep you guys too much longer. If anybody has anything to say about this chapter, let me add, we must stay in creative mode instead of competitive. We can't, it's not a race. If somebody makes it to their goals before we do, be genuinely happy for them, cheer them on. What you put out there is exactly what you're going to get back. Your time is coming. It absolutely is. Have the patience and the faith and the belief that it is going to happen. It absolutely will. Okay. Anybody? I don't see any hands raised. Okay. We're going to go right into chapter 6 then. And I apologize for this being so long, but chapter 4 is huge. And we got another big chapter coming up, which is chapter 7. So I don't think it'll be as long as 4, but maybe. You never know. Okay, so the main focus on chapter 6, how riches come to you. We need to give more in use value than we receive in cash value. When if we are doing that in all transactions in every area of our life, then we are adding to the life of others and to the world. So according to this book, according to Robert Hollis, Bob Proctor, according to Abraham Hicks, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, they all say we need to plant the seeds and then harvest. We need to give to others first. So if you are living paycheck to paycheck or in poverty, you may just view this a little bit differently. You may think, what have I got to give to others? I'm broke. I got nada. You know, why do I have to give to anybody else that is not part of my family? And that is when we have to think outside the box, because we do have plenty. We do have plenty to give, and it doesn't have to be about money. It can be something as simple as your time, your kindness, your love, you know, doing something for somebody else. You know, it's not all about money. And everybody has the same 24 hours. So if everybody says, I don't have time for that. It's what you are prioritizing is what you have time for. So obviously it is not a priority to you if you are not taking the time to do that. That's my opinion. I believe that to be true. So anyway, that is how the laws of the universe work. They do. Whether we like them or not, they do. So think about this. Over the last 60 days, what have you given to others? Doesn't matter if we're talking about money, the time, whatever. Can you name something that you did for other people in the last 60 days? So before we start asking and crying because we don't have, you know, there's always somebody out there that is worse off than we are, always. Unfortunately, according to Bob Proctor, many, many people will never get this part. They will never get it. So, I guess that is it. We have the world of knowledge at our fingertips. However, we must do We must act and we must think in a certain way. We have to be genuinely happy for others and not, envious or jealous because they got something before you did. There is enough abundance for everybody in this world. If the visible form runs out, there will be more created. Their apps, as long as it goes with the growth of all, not just one person. You're going to grow as a whole.
I use an
Okay.
analogy. It's just like a farmer tilling his field. Every year they till different for different plantings. And the land, it never wears out.
It never what?
It never wears out.
Okay. Yeah. It rebuilds all those
Replenishes itself,
nutrients.
yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One year he might put
Absolutely.
corn in it, the next year he might put wheat in it, the next year he might put
Exactly.
beans in it, but he's going to retill that land every year. And it
And
never,
it doesn't matter what he plants. Earl Nightingale does that analogy exactly. He's either planting poison or corn.
it never wears
Doesn't
out.
matter what you are planting, it's gonna grow and it's gonna harvest. Or you know what I mean? That's what you're gonna get back, whatever you plant. So yeah, thanks, Melody. So do those three things. I am so grateful now that, and add that to what you're grateful for as well. And the reason they want us to write them down, to speak them, is because if we don't do that, we're not going to believe it ourselves. So be vocal about it. Write it down. That journal is so, so important that I don't always take the time to do that. But again, I need to make that a priority. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So, does anybody want to add anything to this chapter? Everybody wants to just get the heck out of here, don't you? Okay. Well, I think this has gone too long to reflect on some questions. And I didn't do that last time either. So I think I will hold off to the end. Not the questions that we did last time. We went through this book. It's going to be something different, something that you really got to think about, So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so, so much for hopping on here. Dustin, go ahead.
Are you going to share those links? You said you had some links.
Absolutely. You know what? I'll put them in the group.
Okay.
That way everybody has access to them.
Okay.
Thank you, Dustin. I would
You're
have
welcome.
forgot.
You're
Okay. Oops. Didn't mean to mute you there. I meant to lower your hand. Okay. Anybody else? This was amazing. I got a lot. Go ahead, Nicholas. Oop.
I just want to say that I'm so grateful for you doing these calls, because what I noticed from, Melody, in Melody's course, we are doing our own video series on the science of getting rich. And I had the opportunity to watch several people's version of that.
Okay.
And I grown so much from that. And it's the same thing here or any other
Yeah.
call when everyone participates. We hear different views from different persons. And we grow so much from it. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. I have grown. So, I'm being a little selfish, but I hope that you guys can get as much or even some, because I don't have every part. I have not mastered this book yet. That is not something that can be done in just a few times. It can't. Good. Thank you for coming, Sue. So, so appreciate that. I'm glad. I hope you got some value out of it. And you guys are welcome to share. Welcome to invite people to this book club. And you know what? It doesn't matter that we already started, because there are principles to every chapter. They kind of run together, but there is so much to gain from every single chapter. Yeah. Okay, Deb, you want say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, actually the same thing Nicholas said, he kind of took the words out of my mouth, that I give something new every time. Every time I see
Oops,
this.
hang on, Deb. Okay, now you can unmute again. Try it again.
I lost
There you
it
go.
there for a second.
You got it.
I get something new every time every time we do these classes. So I appreciate everything you do, Lisa. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy it. I really do. I'm getting a lot out of this. So, yeah.
I am
All
too.
right, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. Oh, should we meet there? You know what? 10 people were supposed to come today if I held it on a Saturday. What are you guys' thoughts for continuing? Saturday, Sunday? Is there a different day? I'll take all comments.
Saturday's better for me. I
Saturday's
don't-
good.
Saturday's good for me.
Saturdays.
Yeah,
Okay,
Saturday.
Nicholas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Saturday,
Saturday
okay.
works for me.
Okay, Gina, you too, hun.
I can
Sunday's
do
the
either
day,
or,
but-
so
Oops,
doesn't
I
matter.
gotta ask. There we go. Let me unmute them too. How about? No, I don't.
Saturday's fine.
Okay, all right. And Rosalind, do you have a preference? Oh, she left. Okay. Oh, bye, Sue. Thanks for hopping on, hon. All right, Saturday it is, you guys. Same time next week.
I'll see you
And
next
you can-
Saturday.
Yeah, and you can get in with the same link.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
no passcode, same link. Okay.
Oh, good.
All right, I'm out of
Love
here.
you
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Thanks for being here.